And we're live. Hey, everybody.
Hello. Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us today. My name's Tamara. This is my channel. Oh, geez. Wait a second. My YouTube channels where I opened up this started playing and it really...
Yeah, it's because it no longer lets you mute the stream before it starts, so...
Thanks, YouTube. Thanks for making me look like I failed. Good job.
Yeah. No, you didn't. You didn't. It's YouTube's fault this time. Like, even if you try... Yeah, it's annoying.
So today we are talking about Newsletter Ninja, and that is probably backwards, but you get the point.
No, it's good.
Excellent. So we're talking about Newsletter Ninja. We've all read it. I had planned on implementing everything through the month, but I failed at that. That was high expectations, and I read the book last night. So
we're all doing great.
Thank you very much.
Oh, that's hilarious.
But most of you probably aren't new here and have met me before, so this is par for core. However, at least I read it, and we're going to have a great discussion about it. So I'm going to allow everyone to introduce themselves, tell you who they are in case you don't know, and we will start from the left, which would be Alina.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alina. I'm a fiction writer, and I write in several genres. It's a long list. But yeah, I do urban fantasy and paranormal romance and contemporary romance and sci-fi, and about 80% of my books are LGBT fiction or romance. And a brief intro on where I am with my newsletters, because that's the important bit tonight. I was smart in the fact that I created a newsletter before I published. So I've created a newsletter list in 2013 and then acted like it didn't exist for a very long time. And started focusing on it in 2017. And then later on, last year, I differentiated a bit because I have an LGBT list and then I have an urban fantasy list. And I'll probably differentiate some more. I've segmented a lot. I've implemented a lot of automation sequences. So I'd say I'm not at the very beginner level. I'm somewhere midway to having something that works, let's say. But yeah, as a general rule, the newsletter is one of my best sales tools by far. So yeah, that would be me and my newsletter.
Moving on, Amber.
Hi guys, I'm Amber Kraft. I write paranormal romance. And I have not done no newsletters. I have no signups. I am so green at this. I had it as a goal for 2018, and I did a little bit of researching, and then life decided to go, no thank you. And so it's still on the list to do. So I'm really glad this was our first book, because it took me more in depth than I had thought I had to do once I just started creating it. So I'll definitely have to go step by step afterwards when I'm starting it.
CJ.
I'm CJ Bloyer. I write predominantly young adult fantasy fiction. Although, like everyone else, I dabble in other genres. I'm like Amber, I don't have a newsletter. I've considered it before. I know Alina's talked about it a lot over the year that I've known her. And it's in my to-do category. But yeah, haven't gotten there yet.
And Sky.
Hello, I am Sky. I write urban fantasy under the name SD Hegyes, and I have created a newsletter. However, I was still in the process of testing everything out before saying, hey, I have a newsletter, and it wasn't working for me. So that's where I'm stuck right now. Well, I got to figure out what I'm doing wrong.
Well, hopefully
it's okay. We'll do it together.
Figure it out. So my name's Tamara. I write cozy mysteries and women's fiction. I've written poetry and horror in the past. So, you know, another one of those people. And I have a newsletter, but it's a baby, it's a little baby newsletter. And they probably think I died because I haven't even written to anybody this month. Because here was my plan. Can I tell you my plan? I had a plan. It was a beautiful plan. The plan was to finish off my novella that I was planning on giving away for free. I wanted to finish that off and then be like, hey, you guys, here's my novella. Yay. And then the crowd would cheer. But I'm actually sending off to my proofreader today. So it didn't quite work out in the time frame that I had thought it would. But so it became a point where I wasn't sure of how to talk to people. Because I've been saying, the story's coming. And then I was like, what do I say? I can't keep saying the same thing about this damn story that hasn't shown up yet. It's like,
yes, you can. You can say the same thing for 2.5 years. I did it. It wasn't the smartest thing ever, but you can. You definitely can. Not smart, not advisable, but you can.
Just go from it's coming to it's still got issues.
It's still got issues. Much like me.
You don't know which issue you're working on today.
Yeah. So that was the best laid plan that did not quite work out.
I have a plan. I had a plan too, and my plan was to read this book well in advance and probably not read the entire book today before the stream. That didn't happen. The other plan I had for the month was to update an automation sequence for a new stream of subscribers, and I did that. I'm so proud of myself.
Congratulations.
I did that in the beginning of the month when I was still active and not suffering from crippling depression.
But you're like suffering from crippling depression. Giggle, giggle. Love that.
I'm handling it now, and I'm a lot better. So I think I did an entire stream with Claire explaining how my month went and how bad it was. And now I'm at the point where I can laugh about it. So that's great.
Yeah, I came in that stream real hot, like at the last 10 minutes. So let's talk about Newsletter Ninja. This book was pretty short, really, but I feel like it packed a punch. There was so much information. And some of it I'd heard before, but I hadn't had it quite packaged like this. I like that her tone is very conversational. I didn't feel as though she was talking down to me like I was an idiot, but she also was speaking in terms that I could understand.
But she's not cuddling you either. She's like, this is what you need to do. You don't like it, that's your problem, but you still have to do that.
Conversational, but to the point,
but honestly, I think that's a bit of a trend in all the good writing books. Well, let's not call them writing, it's more authoring or author career books. Let's say marketing, writing faster, organizing yourself. From what I've read recently, they're all relatively short and jam-packed with information, and they don't ramble on for too long, which I think it's why people love them. And it's the same way with Newsletter Ninja. What I found fascinating about it, because I think she says this in the book a couple of times, there are a lot of people who talk about newsletters as part of your strategy. But I liked her approach to it, how she structured the book and how she walks people through all the stages they should follow. Some of us probably did them out of order. I know I did.
Same. Totally out of order.
But that was a long time ago, like 6 years ago. And the thing that interested me the most in this book is that even if you've been doing this for a while and you think some parts are for newbies, when you go through them, you still have a lot of information that you can then later implement.
I absolutely agree. I've read other books about newsletters, and I've gone to the free workshops that you can find online and stuff. But this was the first one that I was like, oh, I'm actually going to take these notes and implement them in a thing. Other times I just felt like, this is my morning, you guys. I can't think. I'm just going to be crass. Like someone was blowing smoke up my butt and they were just trying to sell me something, as opposed to giving me like actual information that was actionable. It's like they would give like a little piece and then be like, but if you buy this thing, then you can get the rest of the pie. But this, I felt like she gave me the pie.
I mean, I've been researching this for a long time, and I feel like some people give you a lot of good details and actionable bits of information, and others are on the rambly side. But her philosophy is definitely different. I think it's the first time I hear someone talk extensively about why you should have exclusive content for your newsletter. And up to now, I was like, whatever. And then when I read this book, I started thinking about people who come to my website to sign up after reading a book, and then what they get in return is that book for free, which is stupid. Because that could happen. Or people who come to my site who've been my readers for a long time and have already read my cookies, as she calls them. I definitely see why it's more important. And I've seen her on the Creative Pen podcast, and she said that usually exclusive content converts better in terms of newsletter, and I totally get it now.
You can hear it on the
It has,
I can hear everything you guys are doing.
it has quite a lot of potential, and you can use that across the board, unless you have multiple lists. It doesn't work like that anymore, but yeah, no, that was a very interesting philosophy, and I think it's the first time when I gave it like a second thought about what I offer.
So for those of you who haven't started your newsletter yet, or you're still thinking about it, after reading this book, what kind of cookies or newsletter magnets or whatever you want to call it, what kind of thing are you leaning toward giving to people to entice them into your newsletter world?
Well, see, for me, that's kind of the thing that I had a problem with, because like I only have the one novel. I don't have any shorts or anything else. So that's kind of what's, I guess, made it get put on the back burner for me, so much as like I know where to start, but I haven't done all the research, and she breaks it down, and it'll definitely be a book that I keep for all that. But that's my problem is I don't have anything to give away. So I feel like, what's to put in a newsletter? Like, here's what I'm doing, which is very little writing and mostly working. So
I mean, you could do a prequel, I guess, like a short prequel.
Yeah.
Which takes less time to write than a full novel.
Yeah.
Or you'll do like me and be like, hey, I'm going to make this short thing. And then it'll take you freaking months. But you are writing fantasy. Do you have like a map or anything?
I have layouts of houses. That's about it.
Because you could
create give those.
You could give like any type of background information. Oh, here's something that would be pretty easy to do. You could create like a Pinterest board, or if you have a Pinterest board that has like aesthetic inspiration and stuff like that, you could like create something like that and give it as a thing. People still like
already Pinterest. On my website. That's my thing, is like all the inspiration stuff is on my old website, so I've got to figure out what I can give away and what I don't put on my new website, because I'm revamping it, and it's just a lot of rearranging I need to do to figure it all out. So
you'll get there.
I just gotta devote the time to just that. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work. I'll be the first one to acknowledge that. But I think that long term, it pays off really well. I mean, thinking of what I've implemented, I never had differentiated between sales copy and chatty newsletters. I kind of have a hybrid where I do the chatty bit and talking to my subscribers and also announcing new stuff, be it free books or promos or new releases. And I've noticed that in time, first of all, people respond more. They just reply to the newsletter and give me feedback. And then the sales kind of jump. I mean, nothing makes my sales jump higher than a newsletter, as far as I can tell so far. Whenever I send my newsletter, I just can track the sales going up and Kindle Unlimited borrows and all that. So we do a lot of things without knowing if they will pay off or not. But I think that most newsletters, if done right, will generate quite impressive results, I think. So yeah, it might seem daunting at first, but start small. I think that's why the book is so good for beginners, because you can just take it one step at a time and follow the advice and just break it down. Like, it doesn't have to be every day. You go like, this week I'm going to do this first bit. Just decide on what I need for a newsletter and which provider I'm going with, and then I'll look into creating sign-up forms and whatever else, and just do a bit every week. And you can just follow the steps in the books, because by the time you're done with Newsletter Ninja, it's kind of already tested, and you can start sending out newsletters.
Well, for me, because I have nothing to sell currently. I don't really have any, like, the freebie I have is my serial, which is out there and isn't really exclusive. And I think she talks, I think it's chapter 13, I think it is. It might be before that, where she talks about having an exclusive cookie, where it's not something that anybody can get, but it's something you only get if you sign up in a certain way. So I don't have anything like that. But one of the things she talks about fairly early on, I think, is people want to engage with you as a person. And so while cookies are a great way to get some additions to your subscriber list, the bigger part of your newsletter is helping your subscribers get to know you as a person. And like she talks about posting pictures of your pets, because everybody loves pets. And
yeah, that's true. But the thing is,
I think that, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, the cookie works in two ways. It works as a bribe for non-organic subscribers, and it works as an extra reward for organic subscribers. Because if people come to your website, which you haven't created yet, and you still post on Tumblr, which I have thoughts about, but I'll let it slide this time. If you post that serial on your website and people start looking at it and start to like it and come there to follow you every time, and then you have a newsletter subscription where you say, hey, I have this exclusive content for you, which is 2,000 words of background on the kid's family, like their relatives back in the day when they were fantastical. That's a great cookie for them. And they will be like, I mean, I'm already coming to the website. Why should I digest more content for you? Oh, because of that, I'm interested in that. Right. You know? Because, I mean, she says that not all your readers will make great subscribers. So enticing them with something, giving them an extra reward when they're already interested helps. And it doesn't have to be long. I've seen a lot of people who stick to under 5,000 words or 2,000-3,000 words as a prequel. And people still subscribe because it's interesting and it fits their genre. That's perfectly okay.
Though she did point out that to just do the first few chapters of something, it doesn't have the same conversion as an entire little story or whatever. Like,
yeah, no, I've noticed that previews don't work as well as a cookie, but there is something to be said about previews, especially if you're venturing into a related genre. I've used previews before, and I gave as much as 40% of a new book, and I used those with subscribers. And it was like, hey, this is a new book. Maybe you don't know how you feel about it. Here's the 40% or the first 30%. Just read it for free and decide for yourself if you want to buy it or not. It was always a lot longer than the Amazon sample, so they could get a real feel. And I planned to, Claire did that with her new paranormal romance, because it was kind of in the same style, kind of in the same genre, but not, because it was romance. And I know that worked well for her. So it might not work as motivation to subscribe, but it can work well as a way to keep engaging subscribers you already have, and entice them to buy.
Sky, after you've read this book, what do you feel like your first step's going to be in doing this whole newsletter thing?
Once I figure out what's wrong and I can actually get the onboarding sequence to work the way it's supposed to, I actually have plans to create a short story prequel of sorts for the series I'm currently working on. It was something I'd already planned on doing, but I was like, while reading this book, I was like, this would be perfect as a cookie for subscribers. And so now that's what I'm going to do. Originally, I was just going to include it like at the very end of the first book as like bonus material. But I think it would actually do better as subscription sign-out cookies.
Yeah. Yeah, because then it's exclusive to the subscribers.
Mm-hmm. And it'll be a complete story, which is what what she hinted towards in Newsletter Ninja as being better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which newsletter thing are you going to use?
I have MailChimp.
We can talk later. Maybe we could figure out like what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not as savvy about how MailChimp works now, because when I decided to focus on my newsletter, I realized I'll grow fast because I was doing a lot of cross promotions with other authors. So from a price point perspective, I decided to go with MailerLite, and that at that point they had some stuff that MailChimp didn't have for the free service. But I think I still remember stuff, and it can't be that different.
I debated actually signing up for MailerLite and testing out both. I know in Newsletter Ninja they talk about trying different things out for subscribers various ways. And I know they mean that for one subscription service, but I was actually going to try both subscription services to see which one actually would work better for me. I don't know. How do you guys feel about that? That might be a little off topic, but sort of the same thing.
I mean, you can do it if you want, but I'm more of comparing what features I get, how their support works, and what's the price point. And based on that, I made a decision. I was already using MailChimp, and I had to move everything to MailerLite, so it wasn't the easiest things to decide, but at that point, it was the best decision ever. First of all, MailerLite has great tech support. They have that live chat, and everyone replies fairly quickly. Whenever they have a widespread issue, they're very good at communicating about it and keeping you updated with the steps they're taking to correct it. And the other very important thing for me is that MailerLite is based in Europe. So whenever stupid EU decides to change shit, MailerLite are usually the first to implement all the necessary changes.
That makes it easier.
And the problem with the EU stuff is that they affect you no matter where you are, unless you want to limit your market, and you can't really limit your market because you can't control who sees your site unless you want to block people from Europe.
You are not
So
allowed.
that was important for me. But for the price point, MailerLite pretty much offers the same things as MailChimp for a much lower price. The only problem is with MailerLite, you have to start paying at 1,000 subs, where MailChimp lets you go up to 2,000. The difference is that MailerLite won't charge you twice if you have one subscriber on multiple lists. Which is a good thing. But if you're short on cash,
And that's why I'm using MailChimp, because I am short on cash.
If you're short on cash, go with MailChimp. I mean, people, I might get shit for that, but I'm sorry. We have to be very aware of the fact that being a self-published author involves some costs and some decisions based on costs. So I do suggest sticking with MailChimp until you hit 2,000. And when you hit 2,000 and you have to pay, switch to MailerLite.
That's actually a good idea. I like that.
I like that.
Just FYI, I didn't do that. I switched directly to MailerLite, even knowing I would have to pay faster, because at that point, MailChimp didn't offer certain features that MailerLite offered for the free accounts. But now, as far as I know, they have kind of the same things. There's not a difference.
I will also admit I have not looked at the MailChimp site since right before GDPR hit everyone as well. So there's possible some things have changed that I'll be able to do everything I'm trying to do and it'll work. And I'll be like, oh, that's how it's done.
Hooray!
Hooray! I'm just an idiot. It's all good.
Not an idiot. Maybe a procrastinator. That's fine.
Well, see, the other thing I liked about this book, though, is that she breaks it down, like you said, into, I don't know, non-tech savvy friendly terms.
I love that.
Yeah.
That to me was the best thing ever.
Because that was my fear going into this book, is like, I've never even gotten to do more than research MailChimp, so I'm not going to understand a single word in this book. And even though she did talk about things that I'd never heard of, she at least broke them down first and explained what they were. So going forward, I understood. So that makes it better when I do finally get to where I can implement it and go step by step with the book to know what she's talking about, and not feel so stupid trying to figure it out.
I tell people that if you're going to teach me something, unless you're showing me pictures step by step of what you're doing, you have to speak to me like I'm in a kindergarten.
Yeah.
And I really don't know anything. And that book basically did that, and I really like that.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I would like to say that based on my own data, she's definitely right about there being a huge difference between open rates and click rates for organic users. So people who go to your website to sign up because they follow you around or because they saw a link at the end of your book. For my older LGBT list, I have a 94.12% open rate.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
For the
Wow.
organic subscribers, and the 74% click rate. It's only 51 people because I used other ways to get subscribers, but it's pretty freaking cool. And for the side subs for my urban fantasy list, it's a very low list, and the open rate is 100% and the click rate is 75%. But there's 12 people, so because that's new. And then for the LGBT list, people I got through BookFunnel, I have a 56% open rate and 15.64 click rate, which is still double or triple the industry standard, at least for clicks, and about double, 2.5 times the industry standard for open rates. It's lower for the urban fantasy book funnel, but it's still close to 40%. So as far as I can tell, as long as you offer a good incentive and you kind of have a transparent way of addressing your subscribers, and it's not all sales, even organic subscribers are pretty freaking awesome. Non-organic, I mean, the ones you have to get through definitely a sort of bribe. But yeah, organic subscribers are the best ever. They support you no matter what, and that's what I'm focusing my entire strategy on this year. Which might help if I change my magnets for organic subs, because they definitely already have my freebie. They definitely have it.
One thing that I found really interesting that I hadn't thought about before was, one, that she was saying, not everybody is going to be on your newsletter. Like, don't try to create it for everybody. And I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. She said that if you try to write a newsletter that's going to appeal to everyone, that it's going to appeal to no one because it's going to be boring. And I was like, damn, that makes sense. And then another thing that she said was, and I hadn't thought about it this way, and I don't know if you guys had thought about it like this, but that a newsletter was more about building a fan base. And I was like, a fan base? Okay, so first off, immediately, me and my low self-esteem is like, but no, I can't fans. Oh my God, what are you, woman? What are you talking about? So I decided, instead of like fan base, that in my mind, it's more like, I don't know, reading buddies. Like, these are my reading buddies. They're gonna be the ones that want to hang out with me and talk more about like what's happening with me, what I'm watching, what we're doing here in Hawaii. Maybe I'll have to find things to actually do outside the house. I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like you're building personal relationships. And I thought that was really interesting when she was talking about how to approach building personal relationships. What did you guys think about that?
I mean, that's something I was already doing. Like I said, I never tried to have separate emails, and never mix that with the sales data, the sales copy, which I'm still not sure if I'm going to implement. But I always start my newsletters as a sort of a chat and catching people up with what I've been doing. And I try to be funny but genuine, especially when things go wrong. I may or may not have linked people to the made-up story about how I broke my leg that a friend of mine wrote. It was this elaborate story where I had taken down an entire gang of criminal elements. They were like rogue bikers. And apparently I broke my leg hitting the last one standing. So that was like the actual story is stupid and embarrassing. So here, let's make fun of Alina. And people tend to relate to you, and when you're asking them how your summer's been, because I remember I said, like, I had no summer, like I was sick for the entirety of summer. So how was yours? Tell me, because I want to live vicariously through you. And there were like 3 or 4 people who actually replied to that. And yeah, I did have some info about books that I was going to publish soon. But they responded to that, and I saw that the more I approach it as a friendly chat, and then, oh hey, by the way, I'm also releasing this book, it's more engaging and people respond better than just sales copy.
Buy my book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to ever feel like I'm force feeding my writing or whatever I'm doing onto people. Kind of like when you look at your Twitter feed and it's just a bunch of buy my book, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. You start to just ignore those people or you mute them, I don't want that to be with my newsletter, especially since crafting a newsletter takes bit more time than coming up with a 200 like character tweet, you know?
Right.
It usually takes me now, and I've written them for a while, it takes me about an hour and a half to 2 hours to get the newsletter ready. Just upload everything, write it, correct it, and then send it out.
How often do you release a newsletter, out of curiosity?
The minimum is once a month.
Okay.
But if I have more news to share, like if I have a cover reveal, or if there's this huge group giveaway, or if I have a release, I will do more. Like I try to not go more than 3 times a month. But you know, if it's important news, I'm going to send a short newsletter announcing it. I also do newsletter swaps. I do that. So for those of you who don't know what that is, newsletter swap is when you and another author swap information and you promote each other in the other's newsletter. And I do that, and I try to stick to books that are kind of similar to mine. And more than that, if I don't find some of the books I've already read, obviously, because on my urban fantasy newsletter, I share books that came out from my friends that I either own or have read. But if I haven't read them, if it's not the book that I buy myself, if it's not something that's enticing, the cover looks good, or the blurb sounds fantastic, or it's a trope that I enjoy, then I won't do the swap, which I think is important because people can tell if a book is actually intriguing to you, and that's why you recommend it. Because sure, you talk to authors beforehand about swaps, but I try to never put out a promo for another author when I'm like, I would never touch this book in my entire life.
I absolutely agree. Totally agree. And you can tell, I don't know if y'all have subscribed to many author newsletters, but I think that you should, especially within your genre, just to kind of see what you like and what you don't like and to get ideas. But I can kind of tell when people are just like, yeah, so I was on this newsletter thing. We're all doing this. So here's these books. Okay, peace out. And I'm like, did you read it? Do you like this author? Do you like what? I'm not going to buy these, you know?
You almost feel like Grover. You're like,
yeah, like
I mean, when I have 3-4 page recommendations or discounts, I try to, you know, kind of look over all the books. If I'm in a huge giveaway with 100+ books, let's face it, I'm not going to look through all of them. But you know, it's free books that if it's, I mean, I can't. I just don't have the time to vouch all of them. But I'm like, oh, Michael Enderley is in this group giveaway with me. It has to be a good one because, you know, Michael Enderley. And dude, you have 100+ books with female protagonists that you can choose from, and they're free. And I think that's cool. Like, you know, check it out, see what you like. And I always say, check it out and grab whatever books you find interesting. I'm not going like, go download them all. Like, no.
So far, I've only featured a few other people, and I had either read the books before or I'd read from that author before. So I felt pretty comfortable being like, this is good stuff. You're probably going to enjoy it. Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
How do you feel? Like, okay, say you've got an author who's not in your genre, so it's not one you read, but you know other people who are on your mailing list who do read that genre. Do you sometimes recommend books that maybe you haven't read, but you know that they might enjoy? Would you do something like that as far as your newsletter swaps go? Or even if it's in general, a recommendation within your newsletter?
I don't have that issue because I read across genres. And the LGBT genre is, it's weird. You can't go, I mean, some people go strictly, I write billionaire romance and that's it. But what I know about gay romance and LGBT fiction in general, readers, is that because this is a subgenre that's then divided into many other subgenres, is that they're a lot more open to try new things. So I have a variety of books to choose from. But what I do, because I have to help myself too. If I'm promoting, if the book I've released is a contemporary romance, I try to do swaps with other contemporary romances, because also bots. But because I write across genres, I can then swap with other people who write, I don't know, paranormal romance or fantasy, and I can have them all in one newsletter. Or then when I have a sci-fi release, recommend people who also write sci-fis, and I usually go with people I know, and I've read the book by them. It might not be the book they just released, because I'm always behind with new releases. Let's face it, I'm behind.
There's just so many. It's really hard.
I have Ambers on my Kindle. I saved yours from Scribed, Tamara. And I have Claire's pre-ordered already. It will probably take me a while to get to them. Even if I read like almost 40 books this month, I'm still way behind. So yeah, I mean, it might not be that book, but I kind of know the author's style. So even if I haven't read it, if I've read their stuff and loved them, I'm more comfortable recommending them. If it's a new to me author, I'm just like, would I buy this? Do I find this interesting? And if I do, if I'm like, yeah, I'd buy this tomorrow, then I recommend it. It's fine. But I try to keep it like specific to the genre I'm currently promoting. If I have a release, if I don't have a release, then it doesn't matter.
Since I am just concentrating on women's fiction and cozy, then on my newsletter, I'm just going to recommend between those two genres, and probably more toward the cozy, because that's more what I'm working on right now. But in terms of like me promoting something on social media or whatever,
that's free for all.
Yeah, that's a free for all. But with the newsletter, I'm trying to just keep it concentrated.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I do for my urban fantasy. For my urban fantasy list, I stick to urban fantasy, and paranormal romance, because they're kind of in the same area. So people who read urban fantasy probably read paranormal romance as well, because the difference is the love story, whether it's a romance or not. Like, that's the only difference. But yeah, speaking of mysteries, we all know I'm planning on writing a few, and for me that's a pickle, because I know that for the LGBT mysteries, I'm not going to do a separate list. I'm going to promote it to my LGBT list, but then for the cozies and mysteries I'm planning to write that aren't LGBT fiction, I will have to make a third list.
Oh my goodness.
By the way, each of my lists, I mean, I have two. I have the LGBT list and the urban fantasy one. Each of them have 3 separate points where I get subscribers, or used to. Now it's mostly 2. Because I had Prolific Works X is for freebie, I had Book Funnel, and I had the organic readers. I kept these on separate lists, and they have different welcome sequences.
And that's one thing that she talked about in Newsletter Ninja. Having so you have your organic subscribers, right? So those are the people who come directly to your website. They come from your social media. They come from the back matter of your book. They're already familiar with you in some way. And then you have the people who enjoy eating all the free cookies. Who come from places like Book Funnel, who may not necessarily be around for you. So it was interesting to think about that, and how having at least those 2 separate lists, that it could potentially help you to weed out the people who are just there for the free stuff.
Well, there's something extra I do to avoid having a lot of people who only seek free stuff. I don't think it's that evident on Book Funnel, and it was more prominent on Prolific Works, but I do this on both sites. I always make the email subscription optional and not a requirement. So if you just want the book, that's fine. If you want to subscribe, that's great. And that reduced the unsubscribes. But then I have the email sequence. I have a 5 email sequence strategy for people who come through these giveaway sites. And I find that a lot of people unsubscribe during that automation sequence. So if they don't want to be there, they just drop off by email 3 or 4, which is great because, I mean...
Yeah, she talks about that.
Yeah.
And how positive that is.
Yeah. I mean, she said something about having a long sequence that's spread over 2 months for people who come through these sort of promotions. Mine is, I think, 2 weeks total. It's not that long, but I mean, maybe it's worth it to just get them through that long sequence and not send them any other newsletters. I don't know. It depends. But I feel that the 2 weeks is enough to just sort them out.
So I thought that was kind of interesting the way she was, like, initially in the beginning of the book, she was talking about all of like the different things that she's heard from other writers and in the workshops that she hosts, where she was talking about, here are some things that you are probably thinking, and I'm going to help you dispel these myths, right? And one thing that I thought was interesting was that as an author, you do not look at these newsletters as a reader would. And I was like,
yeah,
oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But as people who are still starting out with the newsletter thing, have you had situations or have you unsubscribed to newsletters for certain reasons, or have you stopped opening things? Like, what causes you to not engage with newsletters? Or do you even sign up for newsletters?
My biggest thing is when my inbox becomes, because I have a tendency to subscribe to, like, anytime when I do research, especially as I've done more and more research on various aspects of writing business, I'm like, oh, I really liked that person's blog post, or I really liked what that person had to say in this book, or I got directed there from another author or from another, like, and so I'm like, yes, and I will subscribe to everything. And it's probably not the best option, because at about every other month or so, I begin to realize that I'm not reading any of my emails that are like writer focused, because I don't have time. I work 3 jobs and I don't have time to do that. I have a limited amount of space in my day to read email. And so I have a tendency to then just weed out anything that either I haven't read in the last 4 or 5 months, or I no longer find helpful. Like, I'll go through the emails that they've sent, and I'll look through them. I'll be like, I thought this person was really going to help, and then it turns out that I just don't care about anything that they have to say. And that sounds really awful, but I tend to weed them out every other month or so. And so
I'm the same way.
Yeah. I'm terrible. I'm terrible. I mean, someone has to really piss me off to unsubscribe. Like, I've had some people, I knew them, which is even more interesting. I knew them, and they kind of automatically signed me up to their newsletter, and it still took me half a year to just have enough and unsubscribe. Because I feel bad. And I just subscribe to a lot of author newsletters, mostly to see what they're doing with their newsletters, I'll be honest. Because that's not how I buy books. I just sometimes use their newsletters as a way to buy books if they have like a super huge sale and I haven't gotten that book yet, I might buy it because I saw it in the newsletter. But I usually am friends with a lot of them on Facebook, so the moment they post something new, if I want it, I buy it. But yeah, I mean, sometimes I feel like they're sending too much emails, too many emails, but that's when they are like every day. If they send an email a week and it's relevant to me, at least I learned something or see their strategy or I actually like the book and buy it, then I'll keep them.
I think at one point there was this, especially in the business world, there was a marketing strategy where they actually promoted people to send out more newsletters, like to send and hit your people's inbox on a daily basis to keep your name in front of their eyes. And I always thought that was just madness. Like,
Yeah.
Yes.
I know. I mean,
I don't have anyone that I want to hear from every single day. Like,
That's a
I
quick
love
way to make me unsubscribe.
yeah, no, like I know a lot of people who have a problem if you send more than a newsletter a month, which I don't think is fair, especially if you publish more often. But yeah, I think once a week is my maximum, unless it's really warranted. If there's some big news that goes out that you didn't know of or you couldn't tell earlier and you had a scheduled newsletter, like once in a while, I don't mind if I get 2 newsletters in a week. But yeah, like once a week is kind of my maximum.
I've been trying for once every 2 weeks. I have failed this February. However, I still have time to get one out before the end of February. The month.
Yeah, I'm going with minimum 1 a month for the urban fantasy list because I release less urban fantasy books and kind of 2 to 3 times a month for the LGBT fiction one. But let's face it, I had a month with 3 releases in December. That wasn't a hardship because I had actual stuff to tell them. But yeah, it's usually 2 a month for the LGBT newsletter when I don't have a release heavy month.
I don't mind 1 a week, but I definitely do mind the every day. And
yeah,
while CJ and Amber were saying they subscribe to everything, I'm actually completely opposite. I am because again, like CJ, I don't have a lot of time to read my email. I'm very picky about who I subscribe to. So if I'm subscribed to you, feel lucky. But when I do subscribe to someone, I do read through everything. And knowing what I know about newsletter engagement now, I may not reply to the emails, but if there's a link in it, even if I don't purchase what that link is, I do click on the link because I am interested in that person, even if I can't purchase what they're giving me links to, and I am interested in what they have to say in their newsletter.
Yeah,
so
I mean, if I
often, but I really do read everything I get when I do subscribe.
Yeah, I fail there because there are too many.
Well, I think that you should subscribe to my newsletter.
Funny thing is, I think I am subscribed to your newsletter.
Yes. There's someone who's actually reading it.
I know I'm subscribed to Alina's one of them. I don't. If you have 2 lists going now, I don't know if I'm signed up for both. Right.
Yeah, I split them up last year when I republished Bad Blood because I couldn't add those people to my LGBT fiction newsletter. They came from a very different world. And I did mention I have the other freebie. If they wanted to join the other newsletter, that's fine. Because I cross-promoted, not because I wanted a crossover, it's because I didn't want to deprive a part of my readership from a freebie I was offering because it doesn't seem fair. Yeah, but I separated them because they're interested in different stuff. Mm-hmm. So I tried to keep them separate. That's why I did it. But if you're subscribed to either, I'm so happy. I'm weird about subscribing to author newsletters, and I'll tell you why. Especially when it's friends that I follow everywhere and I can get their news. It's because I know if I subscribe, when I could get the information everywhere else, it adds to the number of subscribers, and at some point they'll have to pay. I'm very, very aware of the fact that email services cost. So if it's something like, but then I'm like, I feel kind of bad because I want to support them. And I'm not sure if I'm doing the right thing or not. It's really weird.
It's a fine line, and we don't know when to cross it.
You know, anytime you want to just retweet my stuff, it's fine.
I mean, I'm not.
That's great.
To be honest, I'm not on Facebook much, on Twitter much, but I try to share everything on Facebook. My only problem with Facebook is that no matter how much I interact with certain people, I still don't see their stuff. It's freaking weird.
That is
it's freaking weird.
A freaking story of that site, which is why, in order to touch your readers right in the heart, you need to get that newsletter going. So we are about to hit the top of the hour, and I wanted to give everyone a chance to like give your final thoughts. So what was like your favorite takeaway from the book, and what's something that you want, and what's something that was surprising that you learned from the book? And let's start with Sky and work our way backwards. I don't know if it looks the same to you guys. So
it doesn't matter, you're coordinating, so as long as they don't switch for you, we're fine.
Yep. My favorite takeaway was actually learning the bit about the perfect subscriber, and I read that part this morning. That was actually where I had stopped last night when I was reading it. Started reading it this morning, and I hadn't thought of newsletters in that way. I was actually of the mindset of write what they say not to do, write to everyone, and you actually appeal to no one. I was trying to, in my mind, I was trying to write it in a way that would appeal to everyone. And when they pointed out that you needed to write it towards one specific person in order for it to be effective, I was like, oh, that's smart. So that was my favorite part about it so far. I'll probably make up more as I actually start doing my newsletter. I'm like, oh yeah, that was really helpful.
And CJ, what was your favorite takeaway?
My favorite takeaway actually came at the very beginning of the book, and she talks about how, and I hear this a lot, but you have to work almost counterintuitively. You have to start at the end result and work backwards to get every piece organized the best way. I mean, that was the part that struck me the most as, oh, okay, so if I start at the end and work my way back, rather than trying to create an email list, but rather starting at the, where do you want them to end up first?
Yeah, that is an excellent point. Amber, what was your favorite takeaway?
I think for me, like, as much as I'm like hands-on learning, I was just letting it, I guess, overwhelm me, the whole process of it. And knowing that, like, first off, I didn't even have as much research as I needed to, that it let me know that. But I always thought when you signed up for an email, and after that first email, then it was all, you had to come up with everything individually. And so it kind of helped me know, like, they've got the sequence emails and stuff like that. And I thought that was, first off, something I didn't know, but it kind of took some of the anxiety down for, okay, I'm not going to have to, for every subscriber, do this myself. And for me, that was a big takeaway because I think I was just building it up in my mind and getting anxious about it. And so it definitely helps when you read further, you're like, okay, so I'm not overly anxious about it and I'm able to take it step by step. So
that's a really valid point, because I think that when I started my newsletter, I was freaked out. And I was like,
Yeah.
what am I talking to these people about? And how does this even work? And of course, then there was like the mechanics of things, like, how am I going to know if anyone opens this? But
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
but
well,
that
I mean,
comes with, like, looking at the site too.
yeah, I mean, I deal with depression and anxiety, so it definitely helped calm that down and make me feel like it was something doable, not overly complicated like I had thought before.
Yeah, I'm glad. Yay, this was helpful. Alina, did you have a good takeaway you want to share with us?
I'll try to briefly explain it and not go on a tangent because I'm known to do that. But what managed to strike me the most was how deep you have to go into your philosophy and thinking. And it's sometimes the things that you overlook that you can, and that they're small and you can alter them a bit and they're super effective. And I'll give you an example. The confirmation page or the automated welcome email, which I completely erased from my mind. Because I was like, oh, I send a welcome email as the first in my sequence. And then I realized that's the third interaction they have with me after hitting the sign up button. And the reason why I ignore that is that when you go through BookFunnel or InstaFreebie or stuff like that, you have no control over those emails because that's their internal service. So you're so used to not think about them that you forget about other people. And then you think you have this, oh, look, I have this cool incentive for people to sign up to my newsletter, which sounds fine in theory. And then you think, but what if they already know me and have it and it doesn't do anything for them? I'm just wasting my time, their time and mine with the welcome sequence. Which it was refreshing and eye-opening and a good reminder that you should never take things for granted no matter how long you do them. You have to stop and think for a second. Which was great. And it's not just the surface stuff or the things you do almost naturally, like the part, Sky, I think you mentioned that, like talking to one individual.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of do that and not. I'm addressing my readers as if I'm talking to my close friends. Which
I guess
shows a certain side of my personality, which people like or don't. It's clearly not for everyone. I mean, I make late jokes and stuff like that.
Well, no one's everybody's cup of tea.
Right.
Yeah, but that was something that I did organically, and it was based on stuff I knew from the past and whatever. But it's the little details and going like all the way deep into the experience other people have with your newsletter that brings you the most insight and the best results. And it's usually something that's easy to do. It's not as complicated as writing an entire email sequence. Is just adding 2 paragraphs to your welcome message, and you improve your experience and your reader's experience. And that was the best part, I think.
For me, like I said, I've read a bunch of books and went to like webinars and things like that, and I loved that it was all here in one bite-sized pie. I could like take it all in, take my notes. Everything made sense to me. One thing that we didn't mention was the idea of self-tagging. So in my the sign up letter thingy that I can't think of the name of.
The sign up form?
Yeah, the sign up form. Oh my God.
One word. Form.
Wow. Okay. So
it's okay.
We'll just move on from that. So in my sign up form, I had asked people like what genre do you like to read the most? And in Newsletter Ninja, Tammy talks about how this isn't necessarily a very effective way to segment your newsletter, because a lot of times people will just tag everything, or they won't really pay attention.
Too little.
Yeah, or too little. So I was like, oh my gosh, then doing this really is not helpful. And then another thing that she mentioned that I hadn't even thought of before, but I have noticed in other authors' newsletters, is that having the giving the step-by-step for how to put me on the safe list, or how to make sure that Google doesn't just kick me to spam. It's like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. And the one thing that she said that I was like, oh my gosh, girl, you were so right. She's like, not everybody is an expert. So a lot of the readers are going to understand, they're going to know how to manage their Gmail or email, but not everyone does. And it's important to recognize that.
I have Gmail, and I still, reading that sequence, I was like, I didn't know all this stuff. And I've had Gmail since 5 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to know that stuff because I don't, even though I have Gmail, I don't use it that often.
So
I know.
So that, I thought that was really profound to me, even though it was like a little simple thing, right? It's just a little lines, but it's very true.
But you know what's revolutionary about that piece of advice? It's the when. It's the when, because she tells you to do that from the first confirmation page. I have that in my sequence because I've stolen it from other authors. I've seen it in their newsletter. I've seen it on advice list, and it was in my sequence in some of the welcome emails. But it wasn't where it mattered. Like, it makes sense for people who come from a third-party service like Prolific Works or BookFunnel. But for people from my website where I can customize everything, I would have never thought of putting that on the confirmation page. And that's brilliant. That's brilliant.
It really is. So we are at the top of the hour, and I am so glad that y'all came and chatted with me about this book, even though it didn't quite go the way I wanted it to in terms of what I was going to do with this knowledge and have this great case study that we could discuss. But I think that what I do want to do is for March to actually implement things and do a wrap-up video at the end. Knock on wood, knock on woods. We'll see if it happens.
I have a suggestion, if everyone is okay with this, because we all have pretty hefty newsletter plans for the near future. I propose maybe doing a second video with newsletters in mind, kind of like at the end of the year, when we had time to implement and test stuff and see what worked and what didn't and what we've learned and where we are at that point.
You mean like a follow-up to the book or to our processes?
Our process, what we implemented from the book, what else we've implemented from elsewhere, and give us like until the end of the year, and see what we do then. Because even if you do everything by the end of March, Tamara, it will still take time to grow the list and see the results. So yeah, I think that would be a good idea. And if everyone in the chat wants to join us for that challenge, I'm all in.
Challenge accepted. Let's do this.
One other thing before we sign off and before we say our goodbyes. So this is going to be a monthly chat, this writer's workshop. And that means that for March, we need a book. So I am really interested in knowing what writing books y'all recommend, or people who are in the chat, if you could post some books that you want to talk about. And I'm going to take the list and probably create a poll and have it maybe on my Facebook or somewhere, something like that, and to see what book we're going to tackle for March. So let me know what you're interested in, what you'd like to do. People in the chat, go ahead and ping us with some ideas. And so then we'll have something cool to talk about at the end of March. And we'll also do an announcement for the date and the time and such and such. So.
Yep. Sounds great to me.
Sounds like a plan.
All right.
And by just FYI, I am open to anything that's business and process related. I'm not that big on craft books because that's a very personal thing.
Yeah.
Same.
So
that being said, I was just looking through my library on my phone, and I have a lot of craft books for some reason. I'm looking at them going, I haven't read half of these. I wonder why.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, the whole point of doing this, I was like, wow, I have so many books about writing and marketing and this, that, and the other. I've only read barely. I've only scratched the surface. I need to make myself do this. How can I do this? Oh, if I'm accountable and I invite my friends along for the ride.
Maybe we can do this.
I did not realize how many craft books or even marketing books I had until, for those of you who were listening last night, my phone decided to crap out. So I had to get a new one. And so I'm downloading books and I'm going through my library going, when did I get that? And I haven't even read it, much less knew that I had it. So,
that is like the curse of being a writer. A huge library that you don't even realize you have.
Yeah. I got to the point where I sorted all of my ebooks into collections, and I have all the nonfiction books in one collection. And I just realized I have 30 books on my phone that are nonfiction, and only 3 of them are not writing related at all, and I haven't read even half of them.
Makes sense.
So we're all addicted to writing books
and not reading them.
So let's fix this bad habit.
Should I dare say I probably have 6 total, and I have 1 or 2 that I haven't read. I'm really picky about the books I buy when they're craft books. I did get Right to Market by Chris Fox, and I read it and I love it.
I'm reading that right now.
Yeah. I got one from Joanna Penn that I already read. I think I have another one from I forget her name. It's a great book though. It's about medical tropes that need to die. And the writer works in emergency services. She's an EMT. So she has really cool advice about how to portray different things. And the one I didn't write is Help, My Facebook Ads Suck. I didn't read, sorry. I've had it for a long time, like a few months, and I haven't read it yet.
Me neither. I'm in the group though.
I'm not. I don't think I am.
Tamara, when you first brought up this idea, you mentioned a book, and I don't remember which one it was, but I went to go buy it. It turned out I had bought it like 2 years prior, and I was like, what the heck? I don't remember buying this.
I was the same way. We were talking about the Mark Dawson's Amazon ads. Yeah.
Yes.
I was the same way. You said that, and I was like, wait, that sounds familiar.
And I have both of them apparently. I have both his books. And I have no memory whatsoever of getting either one.
Case and points. All right, so let us roll ourselves out of here. Let's start with you, Alina, and we'll work our way down. Where can people find you? What are you up to? Give your spiel.
Okay, so my channel is in the description down below. Now that I've been very active lately, like I said, I've had some issues, but I post a lot of content, and quite a huge chunk of it is about marketing and managing your author career. Not as much on writing. My website is alina-popescu.com, and if you want to sample my free reads, go to alina-popescu.com/free reads, and everything else you need from me, like every social media ever, it's all listed on my site, minus my latest books because I've not updated it.
You'll get there.
No, seriously, I'm supposed to soon release my 5th book in the Just Don't series, and none of those books are on my website yet. None. I'm on book 5, people. I'm horrible. And I always tell people to update their site. I'm not good at taking that advice. So yeah, that's me. So it's probably why I'm so close to Tamara and other authors like us, because we make plans to do great things and then we fail.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But hey, you know, if you reach for the stars, you're gonna burn your ass in the sun. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, we're at the moon level, so I'll take that.
I always wanted to moonwalk. Amber, tell us about you, where we can find you, what you're up to.
I am. Well, my ebook and my paperback Unknown Love are available on Amazon. The second book that it shows on my author page is coming down. It is getting totally rewritten and fixed the way it should have been, instead of me doing it to other people's standards. So then I'm working on that. Hopefully it'll be at least semi redone by camp. And now I think I'm gonna do a prequel or some sort of something. I don't know.
Yeah, you can
That's going to
do
be
it.
subscriber exclusive, right?
Yeah. Because, well, I mean, we're sitting here talking about it and like things that aren't getting done and we put off because we're working on our own stuff. So I'm like, March through December, every month I'm going to research one thing and make it my go-to thing to talk about. And then maybe I can do videos on it and help everyone else out and give them some information. So
There you go.
yeah, I think we're going to do that. That's the only way this year is going to happen with everything I know that has to happen. I can't keep saying life is the reason it puts it off, because life is always life.
Yeah, I don't think it ever gets not busy.
Yeah, especially for me in the summer. So, but yeah, other than that, any live stream I can find, I'm around.
Accurate. CJ, please let us know what you're doing and where we can find you and all that good stuff.
I believe the link to my Tumblr is down below. And you can get episode 14 of the South Deer Island Chronicles there tomorrow.
Ooh.
Well, if you haven't read it yet, you have 13 chapters to go through, which
Yeah,
I suggest
Exactly
you do.
right.
That's fun. I have had your link open on my browser for a while. And I'm like, I'm going to get to you. I'm going to read you. So it's going to happen. I have to get this damn story done first. I've been like punishing myself. I haven't watched anything good. Okay, is the thing. So Sky, tell me, what are you up to and where can we find you?
My link to my YouTube channel, I believe, is listed below. And recently, I've been destroying myself by doing daily live streams on my channel to try to get myself back in the habit of writing and, getting some kind of routine going again, because I've been gone for the past month and a half.
What time do they start? Because I've been trying to figure it out and I always forget to check the hour.
1 p.m. Eastern time. So basically it starts an hour before this stream did today.
So 8 p.m. I hate you.
8
Sorry.
a.m.
Sorry.
8 a.m. my way. But I could just hang out in the comments and not be on the stream. So it doesn't matter if my hair looks like crazy and
Well,
I'm in my PJs.
My guest doesn't like to be on camera, so you can always hear her voice but never see her face because she keeps her camera turned off. So I've always told people you could do that too, if you wanted to do that.
All right. I might join you sometime then if I'm looking extra raggedy. I could just I could just have a picture that I show of my logo or something.
Yeah, I'm only doing that for this month because I'm trying to get back into a routine and I'm trying to figure out a new schedule now that I'm no longer working full time. Because currently I was doing videos. Before I went and disappeared, I was uploading videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and I was doing my live stream on Sunday. But now that I'm full time and staying at home, I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do instead because I don't want to do the Sunday live streams anymore. I want to be sometime during the week. But I also don't want to step on anyone else's toes when they're doing live streams. So I'm still trying to figure out when everyone else is doing their live streams.
I mean, you should do them earlier so I'm not half asleep by the time you start streaming.
Like I said, these ones are just for the rest of February. That's it. Then I'll actually figure out what I'm going to be doing when. I'm trying to do a nighttime live stream, kind of like Sarah was doing on her channel and Amber was doing on her channel. But I know Amber's schedule has changed, so I don't even know what her streams are anymore.
Ours are now on Saturdays at whatever time we can figure it out. Usually one, but it hasn't happened that way this month. It's like ended up 4 or 5 because we've been doing everything else. So,
are you doing a live stream today?
We were going to try to, but Jazz she's still barely talkable, so we're gonna have to put it off. She's got the laryngitis.
Oh no, that's bad.
Poor baby.
Yeah, and she doesn't get over anything quick, so.
Poor thing.
Yeah.
So my name is Tamara, and this is my channel where I talk about writing and books. I am consistently inconsistent, but I try to be here at least once a week. And thank you so much for joining us for the first episode. Can I say episode? I'm saying episode.
Yes, you can say episode.
Of Writer's Workshop. I have had a great time. I hope that you have as well.
Same. Thanks for having us.
Everyone's pertinent links are in the description. My links are also in the description. You can go ahead and sign up for that newsletter, and I'll be posting a story. So help me on all that is good in this world. You're going to get a story. I have the cover. I can show it to you. And I really appreciate you being here. Please let me know what writing book do you have on your tablet or your bookshelf that you'd like us to chat about. And we're going to see you on these internets somewhere, y'all. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.